Welcome to Module 1 of the Natural Resource Damage Assessment Restoration Program's Citizen Science Training Series. These training videos are designed with and for NRDA teams to help you learn how to use citizen science to accomplish and document restoration goals that are laid out in NRDA restoration plans.
After watching this video, you will be able to understand how citizen science fits into the mission of the NRDAR program, describe a spectrum of citizen science approaches, recognize when citizen science might be appropriate for meeting the objectives of a restoration project, discover a list of additional training videos in this series, and know where to find additional information that builds on this video series.
The mission of the U.S. Department of the Interior's Natural Resource Damage Assessment and Restoration Program, or NRDAR, is to restore natural resources that have been injured as a result of oil spills or the release of hazardous substances into the environment. NRDAR teams conduct damage assessments in partnership with affected state, tribal, and federal trustee agencies to determine what resources are injured and how much restoration is needed to replace the public's loss and use of those resources. Once the damages are assessed, the NRDAR program negotiates legal settlements for the spiller release. Funds from these settlements are then used to restore the injured resources at no expense to the taxpayer. To implement restoration, NRDAR teams work with a variety of partners, including federal, state, tribal, and local agencies, non-governmental organizations, and others to identify projects that will restore the injured resources and provide settlement funding to take the actions needed to restore them.
As part of the NRDAR program, project teams are tasked with restoring, replacing, or protecting injured natural resources. Monitoring makes sure the restoration is progressing as intended and demonstrates that the resources that were injured have actually been restored. However, monitoring can be time-consuming for restoration practitioners who need to move on to other cases. It can often be better performed by partners who maintain a longer-term relationship with the restored site. Citizen science can provide a way forward for the monitoring process that engages the community now and into the future, even long after NRDAR teams have moved on to other projects.
Before we dive into how to apply citizen science in NRDAR projects, let's take a moment to define what we mean in this video series when we use the term citizen science. Many terms have arisen in recent years to describe variations of citizen science. Three of the most common are citizen science, community science, and crowdsourcing. It's important to note that these terms are not interchangeable. Citizen science is the process of engaging the public in scientific research. It is the broadest of the terms. Community science and crowdsourcing are variations of citizen science, but do not on their own describe all of the many forms of citizen science. Community science refers to distinct grassroots practices of those traditionally underserved by science and is a term best used to describe projects that have begun in a grassroots way. An example of a well-known community science project is the Louisiana Bucket Brigade. Crowdsourcing is generally defined as the process of outsourcing tasks to a distributed group of people. Examples of well-known crowdsourcing projects in citizen science include iNaturalist and eBird. Before attaching your ideas to any particular term, spend time intentionally discussing these terms and their meanings with your team. There are two papers that may help guide your discussions. The first is Inclusion in Citizen Science, the Conundrum of Rebranding. The second is What's in a Name? The Paradox of Citizen Science and Community Science.
Knowing the different terms used to describe your public engagement work is valuable. And knowing the goals and objectives of your restoration project can help drive your direction. So, how do you know if a citizen science approach is right for your restoration project? Start by asking yourself these questions. Does the restoration site need long-term monitoring to understand the effectiveness of the restoration and perform adaptive management? Can your staff conduct the needed monitoring yourselves without the help of citizen scientists? Is the site accessible to the public? Are there monitoring approaches you can use that are easy to do and don't require expensive equipment? Can someone from your staff or a partner organization train and manage volunteers for the site? Are you able to share monitoring data for the site with the public? Are there websites or databases where you can store and manage the data that can be shared with your partners and the public?
Monitoring is not always easy for the trustees. It's not uncommon for the trustees to step back from participating in restoration once the project has been identified, designed, and funded. Because of limited trustee agency staff resources, NRDA Restoration project managers may have limited availability to stay active with a project once it goes into implementation. Citizen science has additional benefits to natural resources beyond the actual restoration. It fosters awareness and concern for natural resources and their values, and it provides stewardship from helping with site maintenance to advocating for ongoing support for restored areas. Citizen science creates opportunities for long-term monitoring that allows us to develop a deeper understanding of the restoration going forward.
In addition to crowdsourcing and community science, there are several other common approaches to citizen science that projects generally employ: contributory, collaborative, and co-created. Contributory projects are generally projects where the majority of the research design, from the questions to the protocols and the data analysis, are designed by professional teams. After the project is designed, the public is then invited into collecting data, analyzing data, or both. A BioBlitz is a good example of a contributory style project, where professional scientists might be brought into a site to help guide groups of volunteers through the site to identify birds, plants, insects, and more. A BioBlitz can be a great way to engage your community with restoration site to do pre- and post-restoration inventories of the flora and fauna and give people an opportunity to make a closer connection to the site. Collaborative projects involve the public in more parts of the project design, from developing explanations, designing data collection methods, collecting samples, and analyzing samples and data, but the research questions are often still developed by professional teams. The Big Bend River Restoration Project in Utah is a great example of a collaborative citizen science project. In this project, the NRDAR team was charged with restoring a reach of a river that was injured by pollution from a steel plant that had stood downstream of the site for many years. Local staff from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service office collaborated with the national NRDAR team to engage a number of local organizations to conduct citizen science projects on birds, water quality, and plants. In several cases, the local groups were already conducting citizen science in other parts of the state, and it was relatively easy for them to spin up small teams to collect data on the Big Bend site. We'll dive into more details about this project in later modules in this video series. Co-created projects involve the public in almost all aspects of the scientific process. Co-creation is a wonderful way to bring interested members of the community into nearly every phase of your project, from deciding on the research question to pursue, to gathering background research about the site, collecting and analyzing data, and interpreting and presenting the results back to the community. A restoration project that is co-created may be one that comes from the community in the first place. In this scenario, a community group may approach your agency with a site they want to see restored. Let's say you're charged with restoring the aquatic ecosystem of a local lake because community members have documented several toxic algae blooms negatively affecting the health of the community. You can benefit tremendously from engaging local lake associations, fishing clubs, state and local environmental agencies, and other groups in the initial phases of your planning of your restoration project. They may know what is contributing to the algal blooms and point you to data and potential concerns you may not have considered. Having invested individuals from these groups as part of your research team can be valuable and provides an opportunity for them to learn more about the science behind the restoration work.
In practice, your restoration project may use a mix of citizen science approaches. You may want to incorporate a well-established citizen science water monitoring protocol for the stream on your site, but understanding the plant community may require co-creating a monitoring protocol. Working with partners and being open to different approaches gives you the most flexibility and an opportunity for finding something that works best to meet the goals of the project. In general, you will have better engagement from partners and volunteers the more you co-create the monitoring approaches for your restoration site. And the closer you get to co-creation, the more time it will probably take to design and implement your citizen science projects. A contributory project may be faster to spin up because there are fewer partners to include in the process. A co-created project, on the other hand, might take several years to design and launch in order to really take into account the capabilities and needs of partners. The approaches you choose will probably depend on the amount of time you have, the interest and capabilities of partners in your community, the goals of your project, and of course, funding. In the next video, we'll discuss how to develop monitoring and management questions for NRDA Restoration that open doors for citizen science involvement, explore effective methods for developing relationships with key community groups, and learn to craft questions for community members that really help you to understand their needs for your restoration work.
For more information about this video series, visit doi.gov/restoration.